13 other municipalities that started that, and many of them included electric. So if the city owned the municipality, then they could pass that on to the owner. Well, we got this bill passed that went into law effect April 25th, that tenants are now responsible for their own bills. And I need feedback. You guys are all of the sounding boards and things. So things that are going on in your areas, we need to know about it. And if you go to the Indiana State RIA website, there's a funnel there where you can post at all what's going on in your area. So I heard Hammond was honoring this law. There are some municipalities that are not. South Bend refuses to honor it. Garrett refuses to honor it. Fort Wayne is honoring it. But if your area is not honoring that, we need to know, because eventually there's going to be a lawsuit. So the whole state will have to will have to honor it. The other thing that happened this summer is there was a decision that came down from the Supreme Court. There was an appeal filed in regards to landlord registration. And originally, Bloomington and West Lafayette were grandfathered in to landlord registration so they could charge $150 a unit for registration. And I don't know what they were charging for inspections. When that decision came down, no municipality, town, whoever that has landlord registration now can charge more than $5. And this is another reason we need everybody to let us know what's going on in their area, because Goshen is still charging $75. There's going to be a bill presented at the next session downstate where they want everyone to charge $150. So it's important that we stay, all of us, because we're all in it together, that we stay on top of all this stuff. Otherwise, we're going to be paying $150 registration per rental unit. Another thing, there is also another bill coming back next session with the land contract bill. And this bill was very buyer friendly, and it had changed by the time it was passed. And it passed the House, it did not pass the Senate. So it will be back, and they will have, it's going to pretty much turn into almost like a real estate deal well, it is a real estate deal, but a broker deal. Instead of, all land contracts are going to have to be recorded. If the buyer has over 10% equity in the property, you're going to have to do a full foreclosure. There's not going to be eviction. You have to give disclosure paperwork, appraisals, title, all kinds of stuff. So those are the things, and anything new in your municipalities, we need to know about it. And I will give Indiana State RIA a pitch. It's a volunteer organization, and we work really hard and to get you laws passed that are in your favor, and everybody should be a member of it. So you can go sign up on the website. I think they're running a special now. It's 2 years, like $30. So there's no reason that people can't sign up.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that update on some of those fun laws.
You are welcome.
No more paying for my tenants 4-hour showers. The showers aren't even the big part. It's when their toilets are leaking and they don't say anything for 4 months, and then you finally see the bill. I have a property in East Chicago where the meter's outside, so they do estimates during the winter, and then they do a rating This is all we have. Wow. I'm going to call you all out. So they do a reading in the spring, and I didn't realize that we had a toilet issue there. So when the spring reading came out and the bill was like $600 extra, that was quite a shock. Real quick, if you are not a member, that's cool. You can just pay $15 a month as you come. If you do want to become a member, it's $120 for an individual, $160 for a couple or business partners. Some of the advantages to being members is on our website, we have a members only section. The big part about that is we've been recording all of our meetings going back to pretty much the beginning of 2017. All of those videos are on the website. If your schedule's really busy this summer and you can't make a meeting, we usually have the video up there by the end of the week, so you won't have to miss any of the meetings. You get our affiliate magazine from Think Realty. They also have a website with a lot of additional information. We get a gift bag box with some swag, and then we just started this last month and went really well. We're doing it again. Hi, people on Facebook land. We're streaming this live. So if whatever reason you can't be here, kids, sick, whatever, you can watch it on Facebook. So if you're interested in joining, talk with Justin out back. Our new website just launched this past month. We're in the process of getting all the members added on. I know we've had a couple of hiccups getting some of you guys added on, but we're working through that. That website is a lot better than the one that we just came from. It's a lot faster, it's a lot smoother, it's a lot easier to use. And then all of your membership is going to be more automated, so I don't have to call you, after the meeting, hey, your membership just expired, sorry. So talk to Justin after the meeting if you're interested in that. So I did promote it all month. If you brought a guest, you got a raffle ticket. So I have two people here. Who brought the guest today? Boom and boom. Is that it? There's more people.
I brought them. I didn't know about a raffle.
Well, I have 4, so here we go. I have one here. Thank you. And here. Whoa! You see that? I'm almost as good as Tom Brady. How many rings does Tom have? 6. Is it that many already? Mr. Spangler. So this guy can sell properties. And even though I buy a lot of off-market properties and I like to get them at really good deals, I'll pitch this guy because I looked at this property. I'm like, that's what was my offer? Like 500. And what did you sell it at?
8 1/4.
Yeah, I thought he'd be silly. No one's gonna pay that, but obviously, I hope your buyer's not in here. But
Hey guys, my name is Anthony Spangler. I'm with a small boutique brokerage called Legacy Boulder Commercial Real Estate. Has anybody heard of them?
Nope.
Really, probably not. Oh, a couple. Did anybody tour this property? I think one. Nick, right here. Okay. Does anybody know where it is? Seen it, been in it, drive past it?
Grew up across the street from it.
Okay. Would you buy it if you would have had the chance?
Said the prices, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I get a lot of crap about that. Usually in my business, when I go to the buyer, sometimes Justin already talked to them, 12 months ago, but they come to me because they want to sell for a high price. And that's how we're set up. So fortunately, sometimes I get a lot of crap from people. But so yes, we were hired as a exclusive broker here on this deal. It was a 20-unit property. So we brought it to market at 9 1/4, and the first 2 weeks I usually bring in like my top 10 buyers that I think are gonna buy it. So I'll search the market. I have CoStar, LoopNet, all the major commercial tools that you need. So it's a little cut off, but it's all right. So Nick here was one of the first people to come in. And I usually get a good feel of where we're going to be at. And so right away, most of the offers were in the 800s. So I knew it was going to hopefully trade somewhere in there. The buyer actually owns Greenbrier Apartments. Anybody know that property? It's a 150 unit down the street by Dowling Park. Okay, so it has the same makeup. The rents currently, as the property sat, were 600 or less, and their apartment complex was getting 700 for basically the same size units. It was all ones also. I don't know how this got cut off, but so basically they own a couple thousand units, the company that bought it, so they had no management fee in place to add to the pro forma because the salaried employees weren't going to make any more money off of it. And they also have a in-house construction guy that's there every day and works a full salary. So, economies of scale, they didn't really need to, do it quick. It would be a long-term process to, turn the units over and rent them for much higher. Here's a couple small little key points. It's a brick California style. Anybody know what that means? California style? It means it looks like a hotel, like an old motel, which usually isn't that, great. Total 20 units, all had one bedroom, all one bedroom units. They were about 500 square feet, and I don't even know if that was the right. I didn't really take a tape measure or anything. The tenants were responsible for gas and electric, which is great. A couple properties I have on the market that are probably going to sit there for a while. The owner pays all utilities. So when you have gas and electric that are both being paid for by the tenant, that's always a huge plus. I did have a laundry room, and it is a value-add opportunity, as I put in every one of my offering books. So value-add, you buy it, add value, either sell it down the road or refi and take all your money out that you put in. Obviously, it has easy access. The train is down the street. You have the highways. So these are all things, when I'm usually marketing to out-of-state buyers or, out-of-market buyers that are looking to come into this market. It's a great market. So here's a picture of it. Doesn't look too great by the eye, but it is what it is. There's a little map of Hessville. Hessville is a great, I don't know, I know there's houses that are breaking records right now. Hessville, what I keep seeing. So something about Hessville, if you're buying houses there, keep buying them there. It seems to hold its value, and people love to be from Hessville. Is anybody from Hessville? People, man, if you're from Hessville, you're not from Hammond, you're from Hessville, right? Totally different. I have here has great neighborhood amenities. Shopping, there's a couple bars on the street. But they, buyers can figure that out themselves when they drive the market. All right, so get into the numbers here. On a price per unit scale, I sold a 6-flat down the street for $50,000 a unit, and a couple other in Whiting that are kind of around the 45 per door. Right now, we're sitting at a 9 cap at acquisition, and potentially, as you see, year 3 and 5 after you do your work to it, you could potentially bring it to a 12 cap, and your cash on cash return potentially could be 37% once you're stabilized. Debt coverage ratio is huge. If you get anywhere near 2, does anybody know what that debt coverage ratio means? Nick, or, no, I don't even know. Ron. So if you can get close to a 2, usually that's a great thing, where it means your income is double your debt service. So that's usually a good, some deals I've seen trade where it's closer to 1. If you're in River North, your debt service ratio is usually pretty tight. It's just different market. Gary, maybe 2.5. Okay, so here's our collected rents here, gross scheduled income. So now that is a number that is fully occupied. So usually I market it at 5% vacancy. Most owners, if you're good, can hit that. Nick, do you hit that? Usually, yeah, right, always, right? No doubt. Or, usually I see a lot of the underwriting at 10%, which is probably a fair estimate, but I never tell them 10%, obviously, I'll tell them 5%. What else we got here? So as you can see, there's your debt service and your cash flow after debt right there, $31,000. Any questions here? No? Too bad it didn't cut off. What are we missing? Okay. Yeah, so, usually, obviously, the utility bills, I can kind of tell you know, what looks good. Obviously, there was a building in Whiting we sold, and it was a ridiculous amount of water. And as Adrien can, you know, say, a lot of it's the leaky toilets, or they have bad plumbing behind the walls. And, you know, for whatever reason, you can always spot out, and, you know, by now I can spot out whether they have problems, whether it's a fair estimate. But usually the buyers can pull all that information publicly. Sometimes it's tough to get, you know, some owners, there's a deal in Maryville, smaller one, and the owner literally gave it to me on a typewriter, his expenses. You know, he also had, you know, Jerry curls and a couple other things that I thought he was still living in, you know, the 70s and 80s. But sometimes it's a great, you know, buyer where they have everything, and I can get a property management form, and, you know, there's nothing to hide. I don't have to make anything up. It's just sometimes what I have to do, honestly. Any questions here? This would say net operating income out here. So net income is $75,000, and on a pro forma basis, if you can get the rents up, you can get it to $100,000. Okay. Man, I don't know how that happened, but sorry. Okay, loans. Who has trouble financing? Anybody? I got some good contacts if you need it. So we just closed a deal today, actually, in Oak Forest, and the interest rate was 4.3% on a 5-year fix. So someone might say that's crazy, but you know, when you're on a bigger scale in commercial, sometimes you can be more aggressive. You have a better resume, bigger deal, bigger bank. It is tough to pass through credit sometimes in these banks, U.S. Bank, Wintrust, other banks like that, local national guys. But once you get through with them, they're always gonna, you know, take care of you, low fees, stuff like that. It's always tough to use traditional financing. I know a lot of people here are hard money or private money. And you know, one more thing, preferred returns generally in the market right now are, you know, it used to be 6% coupon on a big deal. Someone would pay, hey, give me 100 grand, I'll give you 6% every year. And that, you know, just because we're late cycle now, that's kind of moving up towards 10%. So you got to find better deals for people nowadays if you want the big checks. So if anyone has any big money guys that want to make 6 to 8%, I got deals. So yeah, there's your debt service per month, and that was off your, you know, NOI. And this is your principal reduction every year. So obviously this is a 25-year mortgage. And there's your down payment, $165,000. So your cash on cash was around 12 year one. Here's a rent roll. 550. It might have been more towards 500. You know, the taxes didn't really show exactly what it was. And these are the current rents. As you can see, I think my highest one was 6.25, and that was a rehab unit. You know, the owner was a small-time guy. Wasn't, you know, doesn't have the necessary tools maybe to lease up a 20-unit building really quick and run credit the right way, how a bigger company should. But yeah, the buyers' one beds were actually above 700. They bought the building 10 years ago, 140 units on the street. So that was their goal, you know, was to buy it, do some small work to it, which, you know, they probably have a garage full of cabinets ready to go on their couple thousand units that they have. I'm sure they get everything at a super discount. You know, work is a salary employee that's doing all this work, so you're not getting hit with big fees on your contracting. Here's a quick little market analysis. Who believes me that one bed comps are 731? No one. You believe me? Am I good on time here? We're around 30 seconds. So you know that's a spread of Lake County basically, and that took it from Kennedy being in the center, so it does dip into East Chicago, and it does dip into South County, which I could say probably, in my opinion, would average those units at 730, 831. And we did end up selling it in March for 8.25, like I said, and you know we say it was an 8.5 cap rate. at that acquisition price. So, and that's it. Legacy Molder. We do development, retail outlets, construction. We're building Rob's Meats at a high school that we built, Ileana Christian. And that's it. Any other questions? Nothing? Nobody? Get him up.
My question would be, if you was going to do like a 12 unit, but it was a complete rehab, it's been vacant for 5 years, what's the actual more physical way to do it? Would you rather do a modular unit, just tear the whole one down if it's a complete trash hole, or would you honestly just want to rebuild that one up? Like, would a modular unit actually save you more money on new construction, or just rehab the whole unit?
Yeah, that's a great question. New construction is rare here. Dyer won't allow it. Crown Point, I think, is done with it. It's more geared toward, infill Chicago is when you're going to hit your numbers because your rents are going to be $3,000. And that's usually, it's tough to build a 4-unit around here. Zoning wise, can't really do that.
Awesome, thank you. All right, am I on again? Good. No, on. There we go. Cool. All right, so we're going to talk about. I'm not on, am I? Yep. Nope. I might have to use the big mic today. That is working. We'll just turn it up a little bit. All right, and I'm sorry y'all have to listen to me most of the night tonight. But we're going to talk about lead generation. Is the volume okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Bill, you can hear me okay? Yay, no? No, yes. Sounds like it's going. Good? Just jack it up. We'll turn the music up and get this place shaking.
Where's our volunteer?
I'm sorry?
I said, where's that volunteer when you need him?
I know. I need like 4 arms for this. So we're going to talk about lead generation today. And I'm going to share my story and talk about the different ways that we market and the types of ways that we market. I'm going to start with some of the stuff I did when I had just a little budget. And I'm going to talk about stuff that we can do if you have a bigger budget. And a lot of it just happens that, your budget's going to determine how many deals you want. If you want 1 or 2 a year, you can probably get that done with a little budget. You want 150 a year, you gotta need a really big bucket. So real quick before we get into all this, I'm not a marketing expert. I did not go to school for marketing. My background in school is in biology. I did my master's at Taylor University, a small school in central Indiana. I did a master's program at Ball State in biotechnology. I used to run a genetics lab at the University of Chicago. So marketing is not me. I've never gone to a marketing course. I have no authority to teach anything about marketing. But what I'm going to share with you is the experiences that I have in marketing, and a lot of it's self-taught from what I learned on Bigger Pockets, things I've tried on myself. I've lost a lot, not lost. I'd say I've learned how to waste a lot of money on things that don't work, like billboards. Billboards are a horrible idea. So I'm going to share what works from my experience, what I've learned from other investors and other websites. You can definitely do things differently. That's okay. But since I'm the one talking, I'm going to share my story and what worked for me. And again, what I'm sharing tonight, this is only one step in buying off-market deals. So if you do everything that I do, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to be successful buying off-market deals. It means that you're going to have your phone ringing all the time, but you got to learn how to talk to them, what to say. You got to be able to go to the house, analyze the property, figure out the rehab. You got to be able to get the house at a price that works. So there's so much more that goes into it. We're just going to talk tonight about the very beginning, how to generate leads and get your phone ringing. Again, you got to follow all of the federal, state, and local regulations. I could literally jump into everything we do and take 3 days to break down all of the marketing that we do. I'm going to walk you through this at like a 30,000 square foot level. We just don't have time to dig into the specifics. I want to go through 8 ways that we market for properties. Each of those I could take a half day and talk about. But they all have different regulations that you need to follow if you're going to do it. So make sure that you research that before you jump into any of that. And then finally, to guarantee that you will get a deal, we do have a mentoring program that we just rolled out. It's $2,995. But since you guys are here tonight, if you sign up today, it's only $997 tonight. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about why off-market deals make sense. We're going to talk about the 8 ways that we generate off-market leads. There is probably 100 different ways to do it. These are the most common ways that we generate leads. Walk you through some tips, and then we'll have some Q. The A part may not happen because I may not want to reveal all the secrets, but we'll see. So here's what I'm not covering tonight. I'm not going to talk about exit strategies. I don't care if you're buying an off-market deal to wholesale, to keep as a rental, to get it as a listing, flip it, whatever. We're not going to talk anything about exit strategies. We're not going to talk about how to go into a property and figure out what the rehab budget is. Those are whole other talks. We're just talking tonight about getting the phone ringing. We're not going to talk about what to say on the phone. We're not going to talk about how to manage leads, CRMs and all that stuff, because that's really, really boring. And we're also not going to talk about contracts and paperwork and what's the purchasing agreement to use and all of that stuff and what title company and how do you assign and all that. Again, we're just talking about how to get your phone ringing for leads. So, again, my story real quick. I graduated from Taylor University in 2003 with an undergraduate in biology. I went to Ball State, got my master's there, and then I managed a human genetics lab at the University of Chicago for 3 years. I left that because it was really good work. I enjoyed what I do. If you Google my name, you'll see some journals that I wrote in some pretty prominent scientific journals. The problem, it was in academia, and they just don't pay money. I was making like $35 a year, and my wife's like, I want to stay home and do all this stuff. I'm like, I better go find a real job. So then I went into door-to-door insurance sales. Who's been in sales? Insurance, door-to-door. That's like the 3 worst things to do. So, and I'm an introvert, so that was even harder. So I did that for 8 years. I still have big fat knuckles from that. Great product, great service, made a ton of money. It just got old, having a bunch of kids at the time and working nights. It just got old, and I was looking for something different. So in the fall of 2015, one of my insurance clients did some wholesaling, and they had introduced me to the topic. And they're like, hey, you're outside doing this door-to-door thing. If you ever come across some vacant houses, send them to us, and we'll give you a $300 referral fee. And I was money hungry, so I'm like, I see vacant houses all the time. Let me dig into this. Now, I had already had a rental at the time, so I already liked real estate, knew I wanted to get into it long term. But like a lot of folks, I just didn't have the money to go buy another rental. So when they told me about wholesaling, I'm like, well, let me actually see what they're going to do. So I started reading about it. I'm like, these guys are making $10,000, $15,000 a deal, and I'm going to get $300 bucks. I was like, thanks, I'm just going to figure out how to do it on my own. So I did that in the fall of 2015. I got really lucky. I found 2 houses right away just on Craigslist. And I contacted the guy, put both houses under contract. The person that told me he'd give me $300 bucks bought the houses off me. I ended up making like $7 grand a house. So that's kind of how I got started. And then it's just grown from there. Whenever, in my first 6 months, whenever I would sell a property, I just reinvested it back in the company. My marketing went, my very first list that I bought that I mailed to was 250 people on it. And I actually hand wrote those yellow letters. I was living at my in-laws at the time, so me and my wife at night, we'd be in their basement watching TV and handwriting all the letters. Because my budget started with $100 bucks, and that's what bought my first roll of stamps. So, but every time I sold something, I'd get a bigger list, add a second list, and just kept snowballing it to get to where we are today. So why off-market deals? Well, the first big reason is deal volume. Who in here is struggling to find enough deals? If your hands aren't up, you're not looking for deals. Because right now the MLS is garbage. I mean, I've bid on a couple of houses this year on the MLS. They always go multiple offers. There's one agent that lists a lot of REOs. I won't say her name. but you have to go to her office in Highland to pick up the key. Every house I bid on at first, even if it's been on the market for a year, always goes multiple offers, and I always lose. Who's looked at HUD lately? There's like 3 houses in Lake and Porter County. So right now, there's a scarcity of deals. So if you're looking to do 25, 50, 100 flips a year, or gosh, even if you want to do 5, they're just tough to find. Who goes to the sheriff's sales? Those prices are stupid. I mean, I'm going in there thinking, hey, I'm just going to do a splash and dash and I can pay this. And someone who's going to do a monster rehab is paying up here. I'm like, good luck losing all your money. Second reason why it makes sense to do off-market deals is, we just talked about it, you're getting beat up offering the same stuff over and over again on the MLS and auction sites. There is less competition. That doesn't mean there's no competition, but that means there's less competition. Sometimes I go to a house, depending on how the lead came in, and I may be the only person looking at that house. Sometimes I may be competing against just 3 to 5 people. It's still competition. I don't get all of the deals, but I'd rather compete against 3 to 5 people versus, however many are looking on the MLS. And the last reason, and this is the biggest reason why I got into wholesaling, and I know we're not talking about wholesaling, but it was to provide value. When I was selling insurance, there was a lot of people that needed to sell their house, but they didn't want to go the traditional route, or they didn't have the time. When I sit down with someone now, I always ask them, why don't you list it with a realtor? I'm an agent, and I understand that agents are looking for deals too. And realistically, and I tell them, I'm upfront, I'm like, this house we were buying in Hammond, I told her, I'm like, look, I can list this for you, and as is, I can probably get $125,000. She's a very anxious person. She doesn't want to deal with all the showings. She doesn't want to deal with putting her dogs away for all the showings. She doesn't want to worry about people coming in and judging her house. She doesn't want to worry about cleaning it or any of that. She also wants to buy another house that she knows it just got listed, so she actually put the offer in today. Her offer being contingent on the sale of her house is not very appealing right now. But her offer being contingent on the sale of her house, that she already has a cash buyer buying it, makes her offer look a lot more appealing. So that's why she's willing to leave money on the table for that convenience. There's also people that we buy houses from that are in financial distress. They may be a month, a week away from losing it to a sheriff's sale or a tax sale. Most of the time in those situations, they don't have time to list it with an agent, go through inspections, go through appraisals, go through the bank financing. They need to sell it fast. So there's a dozen other reasons why buying it off market provides value, but that's a big reason why we do what we do. So I'm going to walk you through the 8 different ways that we market for properties, or you can market for properties. Some of them we don't do. And again, I'm just going to go over a 30,000 level here. We don't have time to dig into all of the itty bitty bits of it, but if you have a question, either ask me at the end or just catch me offline. So, and again, some of these are going to be designed for small budgets, some of these are going to be designed for big budgets. But one of the easiest ways, and they say this all over like Bigger Pockets and those other sites, to market, this is people for little budgets, bandit signs. We've all seen these signs. Anyone call this number yet? Don't worry, they won't answer the phone and they'll never call back. I call bandit signs all the time because I'd like to get on their buyer's list. Anyone going to claim this sign? I pulled it out of, are you calling it? Anyone's phone ring? We pulled this out of some intersection today, so we'll put it back tomorrow. I'm actually doing this person a favor because it was in Maryville, right? No?
It was by Walmart.
Well, that's even worse. Yeah, that's Hammond. Oh, wow. The Hammond guys are watching this. I believe there's been some people in here that have gotten some letters and fines from Hammond for having bandit signs, so we'll make sure to put that back in the yard for you. Bandit signs. So I'm going to go through the pros and cons on all the different types. Pros for bandit signs, they're cheap. This sign, this one looks like it was professionally printed. It doesn't look like they did a Sharpie. Some people buy just blank signs and put Sharpies. This one looks like it was printed. Yeah, it's on both sides. This probably costs $1.50, maybe $2, depending on how many they bought. So they're super, super cheap. You can buy a big box for $300 or $400. It comes with the stakes. You go out on a Friday night and you throw them in the ground. Why are you going out on a Friday night? Yeah, nobody from the city works on the weekend. Just remember where you put them all, so Sunday night you can pick them up. The nice thing about bandit signs is you can target specific areas. So if there's a city or a subdivision within a city, you can litter that subdivision with your signs and just target that one area. You can get a lot out fast. There's different apps that you can use that you can track. I mean, I see people online in the different groups where, you know, they'll hire people and they'll give them 100 signs, like, hey, on Friday night you got to go put all these signs out, and there's apps and it tracks them, so you can get out a ton fast. And people are putting in high visibility areas. You don't want to put one in my neighborhood because there's no cars that go by. I see these things at Home Depot every Saturday stuck there, and I don't know who's going to Home Depot to buy stuff that's going to sell a house, but that's where people put them. So some of the cons is in most towns in this area, they are illegal. Has anyone gotten a letter from Hammond, Highland, Maryville for some of these, Wayne? I saw the hand. I've had Highland police come to our office and drop off signs, and I don't do bandit signs, they just think it's us because we're in Highland. I've had Hammond bring us signs and ask who's there. I'm like, I don't know, you'll have to call them. Maryville code enforcer has dropped them off at our office. I'm like, look, I don't have signs. So they're not looked upon very highly in most areas in Lake County. The leads that you get are low quality. Anybody can call. And when I say low quality, when you're looking to buy off market, the people have to have two criteria. They have to want to sell, and they have to have the ability to sell. The people that call these signs, most of the time they have the desire to sell. A lot of times they don't always have the ability to sell. Either they want market value because they just bought it, or the house is in really, really rough shape because they trashed it and they bought it in 2006, so what they paid is probably what it's worth now. So you're going to go through a lot of leads this way to actually find something that's good. Again, you get a lot of tire kickers. Lastly, these signs look ugly. Again, they're illegal. I don't care if people put them out on a Friday and pick them up on a Sunday, but you see them, you know, nailed to utility poles and, you know, half mowed over in tall grass all the time. So if you're going to do it, at least pick them up. I do have signs. I'll put them in the yard on a property I own, and there are certain cities that won't even let me do that. Like Griffith, I can't put this sign. If this was my sign, it's not. Did it answer?
Yeah, voicemail.
Voicemail, normal. They won't call you back. Griffith won't even let me put those signs in my yard. So most people, this is probably just a Google number. So after they get busted by whatever city they leave this in, they'll just recycle that number and get a new one. I do joke that nobody ever answers these, and that's legit. Who calls these signs and actually gets an answer? Nobody. So if you're going to spend the money and take the time to put it out, at least answer the phone call or return the message. So that's bandit signs. This is one of my favorite, driving for dollars. This is where you drive around, you have your cup of coffee, you put your tunes on, and you're looking for houses. When I first started doing this, I had an Excel sheet, and it was called the POS list. I'll let you guys, you all know what that means. So I drive around and I look for houses that will run down and look like they needed some TLC. So the nice thing about this is, again, it's inexpensive. It costs me gas, coffee, donuts, time, and stamps. So super, super cheap. Very easy to find houses that are distressed. And I'll show you some pictures that I took today. I can control the quantity. So when I got started, I recruited 3 people that I met on Bigger Pockets that wanted to be mentored. Now keep in mind, I had no clue what I was doing, but I was willing to mentor these people. But that's most people who teach, right? So I taught 3 people, and I didn't know how to buy houses, but I knew how to find vacant houses for my door-to-door days. So I taught 3 people how to find vacant houses, and in about a 6-week period, we did most of Lake County outside of Gary. And we put about 600 properties on our list, and then I started mailing those. And over the next 6 months, I want to say I got probably 6 or 7 deals out of that. That was back in early 2016. So the cons is, again, it's low blind. We spent literally hours and hours and hours, the 4 of us, driving all over Lake County, putting together our list. And it came up at about 600. If you're only mailing 600 people today, it's going to be very, very challenging to find a deal. I told you my first mail list that I bought was 250. My response rate was actually really good. I was getting 8 to 12% response rate, and I got a lot of deals out of that first list. A list now of 250 people wouldn't even be worth your time. Time consuming. Again, this took us about 6 weeks, all of us doing it 3 to 4 hours a day to do the entire county. Low quality. A lot of the houses that we had on our list that were run down and vacant ended up being in foreclosure, or again, they owed way more than what we could pay. So just not high quality. A lot of them were in foreclosure. What I do now when I do it is I just use the voice app, and I'm just driving down the street and I just say, hey, 123 Main Street, tall grass. So here are a couple of things that you want to look for. Landscaping. Today was a great day to go driving for dollars, because the last week or two with all the rain that we've had, I know some of my yards got really tall, but we had a beautiful weekend. So if someone didn't get out there this weekend and take care of their yard, chances are that house is distressed, they're not there, they're elderly, whatever. So I'm looking for the tall grass, I'm looking for the bushes that are unkept, I'm looking for the maple trees that are growing in the gutters. For someone that has a concrete driveway with cracks in it, I'm looking for grass in that. If there's cars that are actively parking there, that grass isn't going to grow. So I'm looking for that. In the winter, I don't go the day it snows. I go typically 3 days after it snows. Because again, the first day, second day, they may need time because of their work schedule to get out there in the snow. If it's an elderly person and they have a kid that shovels the driveway, it may take them a day or two to get there. By 3 days from that snowstorm, if it's not there, they're either on vacation or the house is vacant. My biggest deal I ever bought, I won't tell you how much I made, but Alex bought this house. I mailed them because they didn't shovel their driveway. And I mailed them, and then a month later I went back and I'm like, house is great, and I stopped in and I mailed them one letter, and they held on to it and called me 2 years later. That week that I mailed it to them, they were in Tennessee visiting kids. But she liked my handwritten letter, so she held on to it for 2 years and called me back. And we did okay on that property. I like to combine driving on overcast days, because then you can see lights on in the side. I like to go in the morning. So I like to go on an overcast day and then combine it with garbage day. So I would get the list from the garbage companies on what areas of that town were getting picked up on certain days, and I'd be looking for, is there garbage out? Or lights on, or landscaping. So I combine all of it. Bad roofs, gutters falling off, and then any other signs that the house is in distress, and then the city stickers. Hammond is great for this. They got those big, stupid green stickers that if your grass is half an inch too tall, they'll slap you with that green sticker, and good luck getting those things off. You might as well replace the door. So, this is a house in Hammond that I bought last year, and it still made some TLC. You can see up there's something on the roof. This part was patched. So it actually looks a little bit better than it did last year. I took this picture because I own a rental 2 doors down, and I'm like, I need some pictures for today. But there's it needs some TLC still. Same thing in this house, soffit fascia, it's all missing there. Grass is tall here. Garage door is horrible. This gate's half open. You got grass. So if someone lives here, it's in rough shape. Most likely that's vacant. It's hard to see in these pictures, but this roof has very bad shingles. They're all curling up, paint all over the place. Really nice vehicle, but the house needs a lot of love. This house here, shingles curling up, the gutters falling off, you got siding that's falling off. So those are the things that I'm looking for. And what I do is I just compile, I just go out and I'll commit, hey, I'm going to go out for 2 hours, put together a big list. If you're in a nicer community like Crown Point, Munster, Highland, in an hour, you're probably only going to find maybe 8 to 10. You go to Maryville, Griffith, Hammond, in an hour, you can easily put together 20 to 25 in an hour. I wouldn't encourage you to do it unless you want to have a huge list. Gary, East Chicago, Lake Station, those towns, I mean, every other house is going to be on your list. At that point, you might as well just do every door direct and mail everybody. I'm not joking, those towns have a lot of houses. So what you do is once you get your list of addresses, go to the treasurer's website and you go to location address. You put in the address. So this is 7134 Lagoon in Hammond. You click enter, and this is what you get. Down here, that gives you the location address. So just confirm it's the same one you put in. You're going to miss some where maybe you missed the address because they don't have the address numbers on the house, or it was a corner house and instead of it being Lagoon, it was 172nd or something like that. But the main thing up here is where it's name and address. This is the owner's name and then their mailing address. That's who's getting my letter. If it's a bank there, don't even bother sending it to a bank. They're never going to get back to you. So I put together my Excel. I get together the owner's names, the addresses, and then I send out my letters. And then you just sit back and wait for them to call. So that is driving for dollars. Super cheap, easy way to find distressed houses. Great way to start. Cold calling or RVM. RVM, anyone familiar with that?
Yep.
Anyone do it in here?
Right here.
Yeah? Okay. I hope you're doing it the correct way. I don't do these anymore because the FCC is cracking down on these. I know a couple of guys in my mastermind that have had some issues. So if you are going to do it, make sure you're doing it the correct way. But cold calling is, and there's a couple of ways to do it. You could actually just call. I do call one or two people here or there. If I see a really bad house when I'm driving for dollars, I'll just call them right away. The cold calling I'm talking about here is where you have a big list, 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 people. What you have to do is you have to run it through like IDI and get their phone numbers, and then you have to run the phone numbers through the do not call list. So every time you run it through another process, you're losing leads. Let's say you start with 10,000, run it through IDI to find phone numbers, well, you're going to lose 40%. So now you're down to 6,000. Then you run it through the do not call list, you'll lose another 40, 50%. So now you're down to 3,000. And then you can either dial those 3,000 by hand. Most people get software, get those robo-dialers, and then call like that. Ringless voicemail is the same way. You upload the phone numbers into the system, and then you shoot them a voicemail. They are cracking down on that because it is illegal. Those people haven't opted into anything, so you can't leave them a ringless voicemail. Now, who in here has received a ringless voicemail from me? A lot of you. I can send those to you because you come to the group, you put your information on it. Those are legal. I still get people that cuss me out over that, but that's another story. So, some of the pros with cold calling, it's very active. When you're sending out mail or you're doing other marketing, you're just sitting back waiting for those people to respond. When you are cold calling, you're actively getting in front of those people right away. The process of cold calling, whether you're doing it by yourself or you're using a system, once you get it set up, doing it is pretty inexpensive. And then you can hit a bunch of leads super, super fast. When we did this last year, we hired a company that did it that actually shut down last month because they had too many issues. They were compliant with the FCC. They just still had people complain all the time. So they were dealing with lawsuit letters all the time. It just wasn't worth the headaches. But we were getting out hundreds and hundreds of voicemails and actual cold calls a day. We just couldn't handle all the leads that were coming in. So that's one of the cons. The other con is it's super expensive to set up. We ran a list of about 10,000 last year, and it cost us about $3,000 just to get it set up before we could even start to make those calls. And then we paid the company per person that they called. Again, you got to be an FCC, and they're changing those rules all the time. Like most government things, they operate in kind of one of those gray areas, and they're going to find someone that they don't like that treated someone badly and then use them as an example. So you don't want to be that person. This is probably the fastest way to piss people off because nobody likes cold calls nowadays. The ringless voicemails, I don't know what it is about those, but those really irritate people. And another challenge with the ringless voicemail is most people, and I'm guilty of it sometimes, they don't listen to the message. So then they call back, hey, I missed your call, what's up? Well, now you got to go through your spiel, and then they're going to cuss you out. So it'd be easier. If the one time I do it is when they call back, I just run it to another voicemail that gives them that message again. And again, I don't know if I mentioned it, but it does piss people off. So if you are going to do it, just be ready for some grumpy people that are going to let you know how they feel. SEO, great way to start to generate some leads. This is kind of starting to get up into the middle area for spending. It does take some time to put together a website. There's two routes that you can go. One route, and I'll dig into the pros and cons on it, is kind of like one of those websites where it's out of the box. You can hire a company that has these form websites. There's a bunch of you that have them in here. The nice thing is they're cheap. It's like $1,000 a year. Everything's done for you. The bad part is y'all your websites look the same. You just have a different color. Y'all have that Indian lady holding the for sale sign. Have y'all seen that picture on your websites? Y'all have that. You can go the other route where you create your own website, your own forms, but the challenge with that is it's not going to show up on the first page right away. It's going to take months, maybe even years for the SEO to work in the background before you even show up. The nice thing about the website is it's very time efficient. Once you have it up and running, it just generates leads in the background. I mean, I look at my phone now. I don't have too many emails right now, but we get leads almost hourly through the website. The people that come through the website typically are on the higher motivation scale. Those are people that are searching for us. They're going online and looking up, we buy houses, Northwest Indiana, buy my junk house. So they're actively looking for folks. So that's nice. Those people actually want to talk to us. Once your website's up and running, it's relatively inexpensive to keep it maintained. For me, it's we've upgraded a little bit, so I don't spend more than about $2,000 a year keeping my website up and running. Cons, I don't control the volume. We've had stretches where we'll go a quarter at a time where we don't buy more than 1 or 2 houses off leads that come in through the website. They're just not good leads. And then we'll have a quarter or 2 where it's amazing. So you don't really control that. Quality is all over the place. If someone's going through a divorce and they just bought the house 3 years ago, for me to pay cash for it at a discount where it gives me room to go in there and rehab it, sell it, and make profit, there's not always a lot of room for that. You also don't control the area. I don't buy in Gary, but that doesn't stop people in Gary from going on my website and giving me a seller lead. I already mentioned this, all your pages look the same, you just have a different background theme. Again, if you're doing your own website, it's not going to show up on page 1 right away. There's a lot, and I know there's probably people in here way smarter than me at SEO, but it does take some time to generate a good SEO, so it does show up. So, to speed that up, you can go to pay-per-click. Who does pay-per-click in here? Al does it. Jesse does it. A couple of folks do it. Wayne does it. I know who does it. I'll call you out. Pay-per-click, you've seen it. You do a Google search, and those are the ones that show up at the top. It says ads. So when you click on the website or you call that phone number, pay-per-click means that person is paying every time someone clicks on that website or calls that phone number. So, last year, someone wanted to find me, so they put in my company name, and they called my phone number on the on the top there, and it cost me like $200 for them to call me. So, the pros with pay-per-click is you don't have to worry about the SEO taking a couple of months or years to get your page on your website on page 1. It shows up right away. Again, it's super time efficient. This is something we set up. We have a company manager for us, and we sit back and just collect those leads every day. Again, just like the SEO website, high motivation. The people that are actively searching for us online typically want to sell. You don't get a lot of tire kickers. I can turn it on or off. So if we're going out of town and we're not going to be around to get to those leads right away, we'll turn it off because I don't want to pay for something that I can't get to. Because keep in mind, there's a bunch of people in here doing pay-per-click. They don't just click on my lead or on my website, they're going to all 4 of us. whoever calls them back right away is probably the one that's going to have the best chance of getting to that lead. So if I know I'm going to be out of town, like last week we were in Dallas, I turned it off. There's no point in me paying $200 every time they click on that if I can't get to it. Holidays too, you know, stuff like that. Cons, just like with your own website, I don't control the volume. Some days I get a bunch, some days we don't get any. This stuff is stupid expensive. We pay a company $1,200 a month just to manage it. They work on the back end. They're looking at keywords and all of that analytical stuff that I don't even want to get into tonight. And then again, you pay, so it works on a bidding system. When I started this 2 years ago, when someone clicked on my website there, it was $50 a click. No big deal. As it's got more competitive because it's on a bidding system, you're bidding for being #1 spot versus #2 spot. If you're willing to pay more, you'll be at the top. If you're willing to pay more, you'll be at prime time of the day, just like TV commercials. If you don't have a big budget, they're going to put your ads showing up at midnight or off time hours, or Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock when nobody, the people that you want to buy houses from aren't searching for you at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. Now that it's competitive, we have two forms of pay-per-click that we use. One of our sites, we average about $150, upwards of $200 every time someone clicks on that lead. And then we have another source that we use. It varies. We've paid up to $600 for a lead. And if someone is in Gary and they go to that website and put in their little 2-1 house that needs to be torn down and it cost me $600, there's nothing you can do about that. So we're paying $1,200 a month for the company to manage it. And our budget is $4,000. So once we hit $4,000, if it's the 25th of the month, we're done for the rest of the month unless I manually increase that. But we spend between $300,000 and $400,000 a month for those leads. Quality is all over the place. They have high motivation, but they may not have the ability to sell, or they're in areas that you don't want to buy in. Social media I was going to say, it's kind of funny, I was talking with Justin about this earlier today. I did this presentation at a RIA group in Illinois about 18 months ago, and I had to actually modify my presentation quite a bit, because when I did that 18 months ago, when I talked about social media, that was like, hey, sharing a post on your page, hey, I buy houses. Now it's, golly, you got the promoted ads and retargeting and pixels and all that stuff. So Facebook can be cheap. You can go on there and post in different groups. I buy houses. The people that are going to respond to your social media, they're going to be high motivation. The cons is, again, you don't control the volume. It's more of a passive thing. You're putting an ad out there waiting for people to respond to you. This market is very, very saturated. If you go on Craigslist and you look at in the for sale by owner section, 90% of the posts there are people posting that they buy houses, and then the other 10% are the wholesalers that have the houses. There's very few people that, for sale by owner people that are on there anymore. Quality is all over the place. It can also be super, super expensive. Facebook and these other sites, they have all their algorithms, and they know that they basically force you to promote your post nowadays. So if you want to do any sort of advertising and actually have it reach a good amount of people to get a good feedback, you have to pay money for that. So they know that. That's why they make a lot of money. So that's the last column there. Probably the best way to find off-market leads, and these are leads that you're going to have minimal competition on and probably make the most money, is through your network, your family, your friends, people you go to church with, your old colleagues, just everybody you meet. So, you should have your 30-second elevator pitch. So when someone asks, hey, what do you do? Tell them what you do. I mean, we get a lot of leads from just people that we know. And again, they're super cheap. I pay a referral fee, $500, maybe $1,000 if it's a good lead. But compared to what we're paying for other stuff, $500 for a lead is nothing. Back to pay-per-click, we need about 7 leads at $150 a lead to buy a house. And my closing percentage is above average because of our online presence and our reputation and our ability through all the trading that we've done. So for some of you doing pay-per-click, you're going to spend $2,000 or $3,000 just to buy a house. You get a house from a friend, you didn't spend anything other than you bought him a drink or something like that. One of the hardest part buying houses from somebody that comes in off market is you got to build trust. And we can talk about the psychology of that all day long, but if you're getting referred from someone that knows you, or you go to church with them or whatever, you already have that trust built in, so half the battle's already done. High motivation. The cons is, again, it's low volume. If you're looking to do more than a handful of houses a year, you're not going to be able to sustain it just through who you know. It's definitely time consuming to get in front of a lot of people. All right, let's talk about, oh man, I forgot to put the thing there, so you already know it pisses people off. Direct mail. Quantity is a huge advantage to direct mail. So when you're looking for off-market leads, in the market that we're in now, we're super competitive. To be able to generate leads, you got to be big volume right now. So for direct mail, you can do as little as 1,000 a month. You can do, I know people that are in big markets like Phoenix that are doing 50,000 postcards and letters a month. Out here, we're doing 22,000, and I've really stretched my filters when I get the leads, and I'll walk you through how we do that. It'd be hard to, unless I add in like Gary and East Chicago, it's going to be hard for me to get above 20,000 a month. The nice thing about direct mail is I can pick exactly who I want to mail to. So I can filter my list on type of house, location, how long they've owned it. Is it owned by one person, by two people? How much equity they have. I mean, there's as many filters out there as you want. You just got to pick every time you add a filter. It's going to add to the cost of your list. Cons, the callback percentage on direct mail is horrid. When I got started, my callback percentage, depending on what list I mailed, ranged from like 6% to 12%. That was phenomenal. Right now, my callback percentage ranges from 0.15% to about 0.75%. So I send out 20,000 pieces of mail, and I get about 50 calls of people that have some sort of desire to sell. And I say, some are like, I got to sell it today. Some are like, you sent me a freaking letter for 15 months in a row, give me an offer. Direct mail can be pretty expensive. A postcard, depending on how many you're buying, can be as low as 40, 45 cents. And I'm talking about if you go out and buy it through a mail house. If you do everything on your own, I mean, you're still going to spend probably 65, 70 cents for a letter. If you're going through a mail house, you could spend over $1 a letter. So when you scale it up to 1,000 letters or 20,000 letters, it's pretty easy to blow through $50,000 to $20,000 in mail in a month. There are a lot of tire kickers. As much as I try to filter a list, it's all relying on public records. You know, public records are as good as public records are. So it's not 100% accurate. We get people that shouldn't be on the list that are on the list. So you have to filter through all that. It's crazy saturated. You know, if you raise your hand on who's sending mail in here, there's probably a dozen people or more that are sending mail. It's not uncommon for me to go to a house and they'll have 15 postcards from people. And because there's only like 3 or 4 mail companies that people use, a lot of the postcards are the same, which makes y'all look kind of funny. So here's an example of a yellow letter. You know, it's written on legal paper with red ink. Looks like it's handwritten. Here's an example of a common postcard that people use. So let's talk a little bit about the different audiences. I'll fly through this. The first two up here, absentee and equity, those are probably the most common lists that people are mailing to. But then you can see there's a bunch of other lists that you can do. Some of them in our state are difficult to get, like foreclosures, the way that we do foreclosures, we don't know that someone's in foreclosure until they've actually had the judgment filed in court, and then because it's filed in court, it's public record. Some states, as soon as they miss a payment, the banks file list pendings, and those are public. So you can catch people in other states, as soon as they miss one payment. By the time we get to them, and they're already in foreclosure, they could be a year behind on payments, which means they have a year of back payments and interest and attorney fees and all that other stuff that you'd have to pay for. I did the list. I did it for 90 days. It was the worst list that we've ever done. Equity is my biggest list. That's the one where I get 0.1% callback. It works, but you get a lot of old people that get kind of grumpy that you sent the mail. So again, there's a bunch of different ways that you can filter the list, by zip code, by equity. The nice thing about equity is I know for the most part, people getting my mail, as long as the house isn't completely trashed, they should at least have the ability to sell the house. They may not have the desire, but they should have the ability. Length of ownership, you can do, hey, they've owned it 10 years, 20 years, 3 years, whatever you want. List sources, where most people get their list, this is what it looks like. These are the different filters that they have in your city, equity percentage, gives you your quantity there. They run at about 20 cents per lead. So if you're going to buy a list with 1,000 leads on it, it's going to cost you about $200. The more filters, each filter, so they give you like a bunch of filters for free. That's part of like the base price. Some of the more advanced filters, you're going to pay 2 cents per lead. So there's this has hundreds of filters you can choose from, and you can get a really, really, really specific list. You're just going to pay a lot for it. So a couple of tips on the list. Clean up your list, remove the middle initials, remove like the trust, the et als, the HWs, that's husband and wives, all that junk. These are ones that actually pull, like when I bought that from List Source, that's the actual data it gave me. And they're pulling that right off the treasury site. So you gotta, if you send someone a piece of mail and it's addressed to Norma J under the no D phone, you send that to them, you're gonna look like an idiot. And you guys do it because I see the mail. This guy retains part of his interest, so clean up all that stuff. I remove investors that I know, so if you guys get my mails, because I don't know whatever entity you guys have it in, you want your mail to look normal, because ideally you don't want it to look like spam as soon as they get it. You want to trick them, which is why they use that handwritten font, so they at least open it. So like this one, a common name, a normal address. All right, so I get this question a lot. What do I send? Do I send postcards? Do I send a yellow handwritten letter with a fake coffee stain on it? Do I send a professional letter? Rule one, stop thinking, just send something. I've sent everything. I've test marketed it. And at the end of the day, you get the same number of people calling you. You get some that want to sell and some that want to cuss you up. Just because of time, I have a bunch of audios of people that left us voicemails. If you ever want to stop by the office, we have a couple of people that are going to come to the office and tell us what to do and where to go. And I always invite them. The address is on the on our return envelope. I don't use a PO box. I use a legitimate street address. The big thing is, when it comes to direct mail, is, and you can find this online, I can share with you statistically how many we need to send out. I think off the top of my head, for the first quarter, we had to send out about 2,200 letters to get one deal. So if I want to do 10 deals from direct mail, well, I need to send out 22,000 pieces of mail, which means, I can work it all backwards. So I can start with my goal and then build my audience, and then based on that, I can do a budget. A couple of other examples of different postcards that you can use. So, a couple of tips. The biggest thing for a lot of you guys is just avoid analysis paralysis. I have a lot of people, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. I don't know if I should I only have this amount of money, should I do this or that? You just sit back and you keep studying and you keep studying and asking questions, and you never do anything. Well, that's a good way to guarantee that you're never going to get any deals. So plan a campaign and be consistent. I bought a house from a guy I don't remember. I used to be able to give really good stories, but I've done too many houses. So this guy, he had a tenant in the house, and the tenant trashed the house, so he had to evict him. So I went to the house. He's like, man, your letter hit me at the perfect timing. Thank you for sending the letter. He's like, it must have been a godsend that you sent me this letter. And I went back and I looked, and this was about 1.5 years ago. He was on the very first list I mailed that was 250 people on it. And over the 18 months from when I started mailing him to when he called, I had sent him 15 letters. The only one he remembered was the one that hit him when he actually had the need. Because how many of you guys get some junk mail and you're like, I don't need it, and you throw it in the mail? But as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, I need that right now. Like, I'm looking for a fence. So I got the Valpak the other day. I went through and there's like 12 fence companies. Never knew Valpak had 12 fence companies in it. So because I'm consistent with it, and I send it out every single month, whether it works or it doesn't, you're going to get deals. A big part of the success of your campaigns, whether it's the website or driving for dollars or bandit signs or whatever, is just follow up. If you're like this person who hasn't called back yet, if this person really was looking to sell their house, they've already gone to the website, they've gone to other ways. The first person, we're all lazy. Once we meet and make contact with someone, you think they're going to keep searching for more people? Some really, really analytical CPA type people will, but most people, you make that contact and they're yours. So if this person hasn't called, did they call back yet?
They texted back.
Ooh, that's automated. They didn't do that. Their CRM probably did that. But if they're not calling back right away, they've already moved on. So follow-up is big. Depending on where you are, if you're going to start small, once you get a deal, reinvest back into your marketing so you can continue to scale that up. Don't be afraid to try stuff. I tried a billboard. It was $1,250. We had to do it for a year. And I knew going in it was a year commitment. We put it in an area, it's right where the Ashley's Furniture is going in, used to be the H.H. Gregg. And I'm like, that area gets like 50,000 cars a day. I'm like, this is going to be an awesome area. We started in October, so I'm like, I'm going into Christmas season, and that area is like bumper to bumper all the time. I'm like, my phone's going to blow up. And in that 1 year, we had 2 people call us. One person was a guy who go to church who was like, hey, I saw your sign, it's pretty cool. The other person that saw me works for a radio station. They sell ads and wanted me to advertise for them. So that's all I did. So that was a very expensive thing, but I was willing to try it. I mean, it could have been a gold mine. The cold calling, I know it works for some people in here. We tried that, it didn't work. The reason it didn't work for us is we had another company doing it. So if they did want to sell, they would email us. Then we had to try to get them on the phone a second time. It never worked. So don't be afraid to try new stuff, ask new people. I call it a marketing map. I plan out my entire year of marketing, so I know exactly what I'm going to spend, when I'm going to spend it, and how I'm going to spend it. I'm kind of like a budget. So have a plan, and then stick to your plan, have a purpose. And then don't give up. It doesn't work. I mean, we have Justin cries about direct mail all the time. And I'm like, here are the stats, dude. You made $1 billion off it. You're okay. But it is painful at times. You spend a bunch of money. You don't see. This is a type, when it comes to finding off-market deals, especially if you're getting started, you're going to spend a bunch of time or money up front, and you may not get a deal for that first month. It may take you 6 months. Part of that may be your own skill level as you're learning how to talk to the buyers and how to assess the properties. Part of that just may be the competition, but you've all seen that cartoon where the guy's digging for gold and he gives up like 2 feet before he hits the jackpot. So kind of the same way there. So any questions? Tom, can you help me with the... I know that was fast and an overview, but hopefully that kind of gave you an idea on different things that you can do.
I own properties out of state for quite a long time, and no one ever once contacted me about selling my properties to them. I can guarantee you that if anyone would ask me about buying my properties out of state, I would have probably responded back to them. But you didn't mention anything about targeting out-of-state investors. And Robin Thompson talks about out-of-state investors. Can you comment on targeting out-of-state investors?
Yep, so that would be, go back here, one of the, when it comes to direct mail, It might be faster if I do this. So one of the lists that is probably the most common to mail to is an absentee owner. So an absentee owner is right here. So here is the property address, 7134 Magoon. The mail is going to a different address. This is a house that I flipped in Hammond. And Eric, I think I had the record at the time. We got 200, so you got us beat. But this would be considered an absentee owner. If the mail was going to Fred Smith at the property address, that's someone who lives there most of the time. So absentee owners could be landlords, they could be people that inherited the house, they could be a whole number of reasons, but most of the time it's going to be a landlord. In ListSource, when you're doing an absentee list, you can filter between in-state and out-of-state absentee owners. So I know people that will only contact out-of-state absentee owners. Good question.
What is the best time to talk to someone, let's say if there was a probate? Do you need to go through the actual probate lawyer, or is it a way you can kind of go around the probate lawyer to get the actual list?
Lake County, I know there are people that sell probate leads in Lake County. We've looked at those. I find that by the time you get to them, they're old.
Yeah.
The challenge with probate is people open probate for a number of reasons. They may not always own property. So the people that are selling your probate leads, that are generating them for every county in the United States, they're pulling all the probate. So you may be getting names of people that are the executors of probate. They don't have any property in it. I used to actually go to the county and pull the records in person and sort through where the property was. Just time consuming. The right time to hit them, man, you got people that are ready to dump that house right away and take their money and go do whatever. And then you have people, because they're emotionally tied to the house or whatever, it may take 2, 3, 4 years. I don't go around the attorneys, because if you're going to try to talk to them, they're going to go get the attorney's advice anyway. So if you have a purchase agreement that's 1 page and looks like you wrote it on a napkin, the attorney is going to laugh at it.
Do you rotate mail? Do you rotate letter, mail, card, postcard? Do you have a sequence that you like to mail?
I had a sequence. Now I do whatever I want to spend. I mail it every month, but I'm doing more postcards now, just from a cost perspective, because of how many we're sending. Challenge with postcards is they all, because there's only like a dozen to choose from on all the same sites, they all look the same as everybody else's.
Would you prefer people text you and tell you not to mail them anymore so you don't spend the money when they're not going to sell you the house?
Yes, I would prefer that you send me a text if you get my mail and you don't want me to. What I don't want you to do is to complain to the Attorney General that I send you too much mail, because that wastes everybody's time. And I spent probably 2 hours dealing with that last week, when they could have texted, they could have emailed, they could have called, they could have gone to the website, they could have tossed it in the trash with all their other junk mail. Lots of things they could have done other than waste our taxpayers' money.
Some of your return postcards, are you skip tracing them or?
It depends. I used to when I had the time. Now I don't have as much time as I used to. When I was doing the driving for dollars, I did. Now I know people scan them and send them to VAs. I don't. I'm looking for an assistant for my office. Once I hire someone, I will probably get back to doing it, but I'm sending $20,000 a month. On average, especially if it's a brand new list, the return rate's going to be fairly high, probably 7-8%. Once I mail it over and over again, it's going to drop. But even at 4% of 20,000, that's a lot of pieces of mail to go through.
Your direct mail, your biggest thing that you do? I mean, I know you said you do a
Expense?
lot.
Yeah. So our direct mail, because we're doing about $22,000 a month for a postcard, usually around $15,000 to do it for the month. Letters is going to be right at 20 to 22. Our pay-per-click averages about 4,000 to 5,000 a month. Website, 200-300 a month. And Facebook marketing, we're at about $2,500 a month on that.
Is the direct mail basically the one that pays the better? I mean, obviously you're getting leads from all of them, so you're still continuing them, but is there one if you had to drop it?
If I had to pick, that's a tough question, because if I had to pick what I would do, it all depends on your budget. I mean, we've had quarters where direct mail is dry and pay-per-click's amazing, and then I don't know what does it, but the next quarter, mail's awesome, pay-per-click's horrible. So it's hard to turn it on and off because you're always going to be behind. So we just keep everything on full blast all the time.
What does it end up per property that you're getting that you're going to spend?
So for direct mail, we are at about $1,800 in mail cost per property that we buy. Pay-per-click is at about $2,800. And it's so through the first 4 months, we were at 40 houses. Half were direct mail and the other half were website, pay-per-click, referrals, other sources.
You find out of all the marketing you do find it to be seasonal? Like, for example, photography does wedding season.
That's a great question. He asked if the marketing is seasonal. Yeah, December sucks. But if you're sending out mail and it's hitting the week of Christmas, you're probably wasting money because those people aren't going to call you. Website dies. Basically from December 15th to the end of the year, it all just dies. So just planning. That's when we do our year-end meetings. We do our goal planning. We do other things that keep us productive because we know the leads. Weather like this winter was stupid cold. Leads die. Nobody wants to show you houses when it's negative 40 degrees outside. Keep in mind, some of these houses have been vacant for years, so unless they have to sell because of a tax issue or some other big reason, it doesn't matter to them if they have to do it in February. They'll call us now in May when the weather's nice. So we got off to a stupid slow start because January, February, March was really, really cold. I'll get you next. Sorry, I didn't see that.
How many times do you keep mailing to the same list?
So that's a great question. How many times do we mail to the same list? In the past, I would track everything on Excel. So I'd mail it for 6 months to a year, just depending on when I got to it. I'd throw that list away, get a brand new list. I have some software now where I upload all my lists. So whenever I update the list, I just import the new people, and I just keep mailing people forever. So if you're on my list until you tell me to take you off, cuss me out, or sell me your house, you're going to get my mail. Or call the attorney. I have a big file called legal BS, and it's starting to get pretty thick. When I got started, someone in the other networking group told me that if you do this long enough and you don't get a call from an attorney or a letter from an attorney, you're not working hard enough. So I had a few this year. And we're doing some things right. It's all stupid stuff. One was just resolved. You probably saw that on our Facebook page. We got a call or a letter from the Attorney General 2 years and 4 months ago because they saw us selling our houses, and this person didn't call me to see if I was licensed or if I owned the house or anything. She just thought, she made the assumption I was listing the houses for other people without a license, so reported us to the Attorney General. So I had to go back 12 months and give them all of the settlement statements for every property that I bought that showed that I actually owned it. And I hadn't heard from them in over 2 years, and they finally sent us a letter last week that our case was dismissed. So, in 2 years, the one I just got for sending the mail, I'm sure I'll get a letter that they've dismissed that case.
Once you actually find the property, what is the most credible way to find your actual comps? So you can actually make a good offer on the actual property.
Let's see, I would talk to someone who's licensed and has access to the MLS. That is the most credible way. Any other marketing questions?
I've noticed that one of your biggest complaints and one of your biggest cons was the low quality of the offers or responses you were getting.
Yep.
Is there one? Obviously, there are one or two that give you the high quality leads. And can you expound on that? How to increase the quality of the leads? Have you found anything that works or doesn't work?
Yeah, so you can kind of break the marketing into two categories. Marketing that you put together and specifically target, and then marketing that's more just passive and people come to you. The passive ones, that's going to be your internet, the bandit signs. You don't control who's going to come to you.
Right.
So those are going to be the people that are going to have the high motivation. They may not have the ability to sell. The ones that you're specifically targeting, which you can target for the direct mail, you can target for the cold calling. I know people that will buy those same lists and then upload them into Facebook and target them on Facebook. Because you can filter exactly who you want, those people have the ability to sell, they just may not always have the desire.
Right.
So I don't get cussed out when someone calls me from the website because they were actively searching. The people that cuss me out are the ones that get a freaking postcard in the mail. The postcards that have the picture of their house on it, if you really, really are looking to get some ear, yeah, do those. Those are fun. We just did them. I have a lot of good voicemails.
Just a little bit on RBM. You said when they call back from RBM, it goes directly to another voicemail, like an IVR system. Is that what you're using, or are you answering those calls live?
So the only time that I've done RBMs is for the group. I've done it on like a Monday. Hey, our meeting's tonight. Here's the topic. Blah blah blah. Because most of you don't listen to your voicemail and you just call back from this number. In that case, I just sent it to another voicemail that had the same message. Because I don't have time to tell 300 people that don't listen to your voicemail. Now, I've never done that for trying to get seller leads. I've talked with people that do that, and that's been my same suggestion. But the biggest thing is now they got to leave another voicemail, and they're probably just going to hang up. So just got to be ready to answer them live. So again, we don't do that because there's too many issues with the government on that right now. Was that helpful?
Yes.
What are one or two things that you guys picked up that you can go apply to your marketing strategies?
Get a bigger budget.
Call mom.
Keep mailing.
Keep mailing. That's a big one.
Ignore all this.
That's a good piece of advice. My biggest competition isn't wholesalers, it's my own cash buyers. It's Wayne sending out too much mail. Any other questions?
I received a text that somebody wanted to buy one of my rental properties. How did I get on a list with my cell phone?
So that individual went to something like ListSource and picked up a list of probably absentee owners. They then sent it through a website that found your cell phone. And then they sent it hopefully through the do not call list. And because cell phones, and don't quote me on this, I think cell phones have some exemptions. Home phones, you gotta.
This is on do not call list.
I would talk to them, but that's how they did it. So again, that's one of the reasons I don't do the text and the ringless voicemails is because there's some issues with the regulations on that. So there are some things that are exempt. Some it's really confusing because like landlines, cell phones, certain carriers are exempt, some aren't exempt. If it's done by a computer, like a robo, those fall under this category, but if you manually do it, so there are people that literally can just hit send, 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 and that's considered manually sending it. So there's lots of gray areas, but the government's tracking down those people.
I just wanted to confirm this strategy that you had specifically is for wholesaling, or you can apply it to all real estate strategies?
To find off market.
Yeah.
So again, this just gets the phone ringing.
Yeah.
What you do with the property once you buy it, how you make your offer, that's up to you.
Sure.
So if I do both. I do wholesaling, I do rehabbing, I do rentals. My decision on my exit strategy depends on the area, the condition of the house, how busy my project manager is, how much money I have. You know, the houses that we've been doing the last couple of weeks, my project manager is finishing up a big flip that we have in Cedar Lake. We got like 10 units of our rental properties that we're renovating. So for us right now, we're doing more wholesaling because I don't have the time or money to add another flip. So as that shifts, hopefully once these rentals are done and occupied, we may go to keeping more properties.
But like driving for dollars, would you use that for a rental strategy? Or that's not really?
Why not? I mean, if you're looking for a rental in a particular area, I would drive that neighborhood and find stuff that looks like junk and mail them. The whole idea behind marketing for off-market property is again, if you're looking for a deal, you know, I talk to a lot of people like, hey, if something falls in my lap and it's a great deal, I'll buy it. If that's you, doing everything we talked about today is probably not a fit for you. But if you're the type where it's like, man, I want to get 5 rentals this year, I'm going to do 5 flips, or you have a specific goal and you're not able to reach that goal by finding stuff on the MLS or auction sites, these are other ways that you can do it. So all of my rentals have come through off-market sources, and I have phenomenal returns on them because I have very, very, very little competition. Any other questions? All right, let's get to the best part. Who has a deal? Stand up if you have something. If you're wholesaling it, you have to have a contract. I don't want to talk about, I might have this property. Make sure you have it. And give us some legit details on it, Craig. Not, I have a property, it's 3 beds, contact me.
I have 2 bedroom, 2.5 bath in Lake Station. Need some work, probably about 8 to 10K in work. That'll be a great rental. I have a nice property in Crown Point, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, 922 square feet. Asking 93K. After repair values between 143 to 150. And I have a townhome in Maryville, 2 bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2 stories. Needs just paint, carpet, and just a little cleanup. That's roughly around 140. With ARV about 180.
Man, you're moving. I should have had you do this talk.
You won't ask me.
Anyone else have?
I'm Julie Parker, and I came up from Dayton, Ohio specifically to network with people at this very meeting. I bought a note in 2014 against 4 properties for $15,700. Sounds like a really safe deal. Well, unfortunately, the buyer, or the owner, has done things with NFS checks, not paying points, refinancing, to not paying their insurance, to the point where the servicing company dropped them, forcing me to take them to foreclosure. This property is a package of 4 properties in Gary, Indiana, and I drove by all of them today. It looks like 2 of them are most likely occupied by people. 1 of them is vacant. 1 I went to today, and the neighbor said, yes, it's vacant. But all of them look like they're in pretty decent shape in Gary, Indiana. Because I'm doing a foreclosure action, I don't know any really details about it, because I'm just the note holder. But the auction for these properties is going to be on June 7th, and I made a flyer up here. Probably the judgment right now is about $36,000 against these properties. Interesting, the note was $15,700. It's been, in fact, I'm working on a presentation sometime on this. It's so bad. But if you're interested in picking up 4 properties in a package deal for around $36,000 in Gary, Indiana, with maybe 2 of them already occupied by a tenant or someone, I really don't know, and the other ones need some rehab work, it might be a pretty awesome opportunity.
Are you going to put the opening bid at the judgment amount, or
the
higher or
opening
lower?
bid will be at the judgment amount.
Okay.
Thank you. And those flyers back here, and I have pictures I took today after too.
Anyone else have anything? Looking for money, you have a flip but no money, need a house. Al Perez, Preferred Homes, looking for houses.
Yes, please, thank you.
I have one in Griffith. Actually, I do. That's 4 beds, 1.5 baths. This house is huge. The assessor site is not accurate. It's actually closer to 2,900 square feet. It's a bi-level. They have a huge addition on the back that has a hot tub. It's in great condition. It has a fireplace. It's like master suite's huge. I think they opened up 2 smaller bedrooms, made it 1 big bedroom, added this fireplace room, added this hot tub. It's like Sybaris. It's like Sybaris and Griffith. We have it out. It's tough to comp because all the bi-levels are like 2,200 square feet, and those are hitting about 215. This is almost 3,000 square feet. My guess is it's probably like a 250 house, although I know some guys in here will probably push it. We sent that out today. It's 1:30. Take a look at it. Let me know by Thursday. So, anyone else have anything? Awesome. Next month we have Mike. Mike does like 400 flips a year. He has a lot of crews, and he's going to talk about working with contractors. I've had some ups and downs working with contractors. I've heard some of his stories. I've talked to other contractors. It's always challenging when you have a vision and you try to put it into writing and have the contractor execute that vision, stay on budget, stay on time. So we're going to talk about that, how to work with them, how to communicate with them, how to make things easy for them. I know one of the growing pains that we had was making sure that all the material was there when they were there so they could do everything. So we're going to talk about that. He's going to talk about some of the different ways you can, what you should focus on. You know, I know a lot of people focus on landscaping and making the outside pretty. Yeah, that helps the house sell faster, but it doesn't add a whole lot of value to the house. So he'll talk about a couple of the areas in the house that really add value to the house and help you get the most out of it. So that is next month on the 17th. I have 8:30. We have the room for the next hour, so definitely grab some cards, chat with some people, and we'll see you next month. And if this is your sign, I'll put it up here and. Knowing that it's him, I'm just gonna go back where it went. It's all your horse. And they were nice. Just fine. They're like,
So impressed.
justify them. I don't want to be religious. The house was chopped up and I thought it was just a house that could be chopped it all. We used their video to sell it. It's like rubber still. All the neighbors have no Swiss market tours.
I really want to show you what
That's what I want. $40. Because the people in here are like, hey, let's actually see what comes up. And then you call like 10 people in here.
Somebody gets pissed that you gotta get a voice.
Always wondered what those were. I didn't know.
That's expensive. I didn't know.
Yes, three people that are fighting for so I'll drive up. I caught our house one guy, so like, what happened? His max is bitter at 375. He thought it was about like I thought it was drive his pickup and drop my so I know he's going to put in all that other stuff. I'm going to go to the guy who was asked to pay some So my budget is $5,000 a month. Everything else. It's possible. You're the driver. I'm ready whenever you guys are. Oh yeah, yeah. Hey Gary, yeah. I think I was. Huh? Still all my ideas. So yeah. Like the audience, so we have awesome. Take care. Good to see you. I saw your license now with Kevin. Yep. Oh, you're good. Alex. I just realized I hit my 2-year anniversary at the end of the month and I got to do my CV. Really? Where's your office? Okay. Did you see our new office? Come see us at our office. Yeah, where is it? I drove by it. 38 Klein. Yep. Come see it. It's dope. We got like 4,800 square feet. Mr. Donnie's like located on the block. There's the title. It's all state. It's got a little real estate block there. Come see it. You're almost switched to the store. Dude, it's cool. At the scale we need to be in Indiana yesterday. We did a couple of them. We're like, yeah, we're big more time. Where are you using? Greater? Yeah. Okay. You like them? Cool. So we're going in 2 years. Cool. What about this one guy? What's his name? The big dude? I remember I saw you at a house in Yemen with him. Ross? What's his name?
Still around? It's a big ass deal. I drove a Kia K500. It was a LeBron $100,000 car. You remember that big ass deal? He's like super big. I'm sure. Yeah, I was fishing. He drives his wife has a Prius. Yeah, his wife's the one in Mexico. I don't know what I'll find out his name. I wonder what he's up to. He was doing a bunch of weird stuff. He was doing weird shit. I don't know. I didn't really understand it. He was doing good. I don't know. He was making money. I live in Cherville, though, so if you have something in Cherville, I love that. I know it's hard to be picky, but I'm going to take Cherville. See, let me know, please. Okay, you just shoot them out and you yeah. Good job. Thank you. Very good to see you, sir. Likewise.
You got any recommendations?
Working on it. I'm just gonna put together a list. We'll have one meeting and figure it out. Awesome. Cool. Likewise.
Good question for you. How do you recommend myself 5 acres of land that would be county? It's like Westville. Huh? Yeah, but I don't want to sit on a shit ton of stuff out there. It's just about vacant land, you know? Yeah. Because it used to be my grandfather's. Passed away, and got handed down to me, and I used to pay.
Like craft auction.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not bad. But then they want a 10% cut on that, right?
Yeah, but you set your reserve for, you know, at whatever price you know you're going to walk with what you want to walk with. And I don't. Outside of that, or just a stupid price on the MLS, would make sense.